Where do you come to get all your news? You already know the answer. It is the Washington Informer, which is celebrating 60 years all year long. Of course, we have a lot of exciting things leading up to our March 28th celebration, excuse me, at the Martin Luther King Library. But before we even get there, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to reflect on, and a lot to celebrate. Reaching 60 years is quite an achievement. And so we have some special guests to celebrate, some faces that you might recognize really, really well, and some faces that you might have seen a few times here that are constant Washington Informer family. So without further ado, I want to bring on Larry Lee, publisher of the Sacramento Observer, who I just learned actually is celebrating 62 years of publishing news that we all can use. And then we have Lafayette Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer Bridge. And actually, Lafayette is celebrating, he's, so humble, but he's celebrating 10 years, a decade as a publisher. And we are so proud of him and really inspired by his journey with the bridge. And so I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that. And last but certainly not least, our amazing publisher of the Washington Informer, who I don't know how she has so memories of the past 60 years when she's only celebrating her 30th birthday this year. But we are so thankful for her and her fearless, amazing, innovative, visionary leadership. Denise Rolock Barnes, thank you so much for being with us, as always.
Thank you, Micha.
We really, really appreciate it. So, I have a lot of questions, and I know we don't have a lot of time. You all are busy publishers, but I want to reflect on this journey in the game that for you all has been legacy. And so we'll start with you, Larry. And this question goes to all three of you, so think about it. What's one of your earliest and favorite memories of engaging with the newspaper, in your case, the Sacramento Observer?
Oh wow. Well, thanks again, Misha, for allowing me to join you guys, for inviting me. It's always good to see the Barnes crew, and of course see you as well too, and to be with the Washington Informer family. Let's see. So, what was some of the earliest memories? So, my story, of course, is not unlike a lot of other publishers, except that I literally grew up in the business. The paper is older than I am. And so probably the earliest memories are of me being a little kid in the newsroom and the office, probably causing mischief. Um, I tended to be a little bit of a prankster as a little kid. So I would do things around professional working adults that may have been funny to me, may have been annoying to them, and they couldn't do anything to me because I was the boss's son. I don't know, but I would do silly stuff like hide in certain parts of the office, the dark room, and scare people when they went into work or do something silly like that. Those are some of my young little kid memories. And then also, really being around the family is really the thing that probably stands out more than anything, because we really were a family business. My dad, my mom ran the newspaper, but my grandmother worked there. I had cousins and aunts and uncles and brothers that all worked in the newsroom. So it was a family place. So it's kind of where we all went and had family memories. So I have a lot of those memories that go along with some of the growing up around the business.
That sounds fun. Little Larry in the newsroom
Yeah,
picking
little Larry.
on
Yes.
folks.
Yeah.
Miss Denise, how about you? Were you picking on folks in dark rooms?
Uh, no, I mean, my dad started the paper when I was 9. And, this is where I spent my summers. I lived with my mom, but I spent the summers with my father and my stepmother. And every day I would go to work with him. And he put me to work. Larry, you can appreciate this. One of the things he had me do besides going to the bank, I used to go and make deposits, the bank deposits for the paper every day. When we fortunately, if we had bank deposits every day. But my job was to go through, let's say I hadn't been there in a year. So that the beginning of that next summer, my job was to write down every ad that published in the newspaper, the page number, the size of the ad, and how much that ad cost.
Ooh, I love that.
That
Wow.
was my job. And I really wish I had those pieces of paper. But we're kids, right, Larry?
Hmm.
They give you busy work and you get it done in what they think is going to take you a month, and you get it done in 3 days.
Right.
Um, so I had to do that. And the same thing with the subscribers. Um, you know, uh, because of my father, we didn't have computers then. So the subscriptions, the labels for the subscriptions were done on a typewriter. And so my father wanted me to type up enough labels for 52 weeks
Mm.
for each one of the subscribers. Well, I discovered carbon paper.
I was gonna say, yeah, copier or something. Absolutely. Go ahead.
And I had I think it was Greg's typing book. And so I would practice, and that was my test for myself. How quickly could I type these labels? So that was another 3 or 4 days. So, I mean, those are the things, because it was just me. There were 2 offices. We shared the office with another gentleman, a guy named Mr. Smith. And, it was just the 3 of us in there. So no playing time, Larry, because there was nothing to do except, and we were in downtown DC. So my trips to the bank normally took about 2 hours, because people that had summer jobs, kids were working in the stores up and down 7th Street. I knew all of them, and I knew the owners. And there were certain restaurants I would go into, and I knew all the people that were the servers. And so every day, I'm almost playing politician. I'm going up and down 7th Street, just saying hi to people and having conversations. So those are sort of my earliest memories of working here, and probably until I was about 15 or 16.
So you were an official employee.
Well, when we celebrated our 50th anniversary, and I've got to find it now. I don't know what I did with it, but yeah, I have the first check my father wrote me, for a
Wow.
week's worth of work, $25. I mean, tell me, I was rolling.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Lafayette is shaking his head. Is it because you might have needed a little bit more than 25 for your dollars for your work, Lafayette? No, that sounds like the days, Miss Denise. Lafayette, tell me about your earliest memories with the Washington Informer.
Well, that's quite a
Yeah,
memory.
he's like, oh, now those are the memories.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think he's having some computer
yeah.
problems. I'm not sure, but I think about what Larry said, and when Lafayette and Desmond would come to the office as kids, it was like a playground.
Mm.
I mean, they were balling up paper, and the trash cans were the basketball courts, and oh, it was tough, but that I had to have them there, and they made the best of their time there, even though we weren't necessarily doing journalism.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, the playtime was generally when Dad was gone for a meeting. It was like as soon as my dad left, it was that's might have been when I started to do that kind of stuff. But yes, the busy work. I was doing like you said, Denise, you're doing ad sales. You're doing you're learning how to edit. You're learning how to design pages, take photographs, do office administrative work, all that stuff. So there were so many times that I would make a call or I would answer the phone, and people, as I'm 7, 8, 9 years old, and people thought I was a woman on the phone just because of my high pitched kid voice. So that came with it.
I love it. I love it. So, when did you all sort of make the transition from working with the paper as a child to uh, more official positions to publisher? How did that moment happen for you all? And we'll start with you this time, Miss Denise.
Oh, okay. So, I went to Hampton Institute at the time and majored in political science. My plan was to go to law school. I had no plans at all to work for the newspaper. Wasn't the best student. Changed my major after my first year to mass media, and some things happened historically as it related to the country that made me realize I needed to be back in DC where the heartbeat of the news was taking place. So I came back, went to Howard, and as a student at Howard School of Communications, I was working at the newspaper, doing the things that Larry's talking about doing, writing stories, editing, just putting the newspaper together. And I did that um, even through law school. I became the editor of Howard University's law school newspaper. And it was really at that point when I realized that I really liked this business.
Mhm.
And so I finished law school in 1980, started working with my dad at the paper. And of course, many know he died in 1994. And that's when I stepped in as publisher. So, again, we had a small staff, so titles really never meant much to me, because I probably had about 10 titles. So, but yeah, I mean, becoming publisher really came all of the responsibility, and that happened in 1994.
Wow. Wow. So I mean you've had some big milestones in your journey along the way. This is 31 years in the publishing game for you, which is really amazing. So, it's Black History Month, and as we know in the Black press, we're Black History. We're knocking on Women's History Month doors. So I think that's worth celebrating, Miss Denise. Larry, how about you? What was that transition like for you?
I celebrate the fact that we make history every week. So
That's
Denise,
true.
you're making history every week. But
That,
so for me, not that much different than Denise, except I think probably the only thing I'm the youngest of three boys. My oldest brother is deceased now. My middle brother, and we're all very spread out. There's 17 years um, distance between my oldest brother and myself, and so I think my ascension into leadership at the Observer kind of came uh, because of the combination of having having had parents who tried to get the boys involved in the family business and it not really sticking, and then me looking for and watching the Observer during a really I don't want to say our heyday because I feel like our heyday is still here, but during the heyday of newspapering, right? So I grew up 70s and 80s, and newspapering was a big deal. It was an industry that was very exciting to be a part of and to watch. just like Denise is saying, she's seeing how in the 80s that, she needs to be in DC and all that. And so I think that that was something that was very attractive to me as a young person. It really came down, there was a meeting, you could call it, family meeting, that my parents had with me when I was about 18. I think at this time in their life, because they were older, they were just trying to decide what to do with the business, if they were going to sell it. I know it kind of coincided with us having to kind of leave out of one of our buildings, the building that we had at the time, which I think was a little bit starting to fall apart. Um, and so dad, who was in real estate, I think was also trying to figure out what were going to be his next moves. And so they sat me down and asked me if I thought I would be interested in coming back after college to be a part of the family business. And I naively said yes, because I didn't want to see anything happen to the business. And so I said yes. And people ask me all the time, did that give you kind of a level of responsibility that was more than you should expect or more than you wanted? And really my response oftentimes is that it gave me purpose, right? So at 18, then starting to go to college, the idea was, okay, what am I going to learn and bring back home to the family business and bring back to the industry of the Black press? I was always committed to the Black press, even though I loved media, I loved all kinds of stuff media, but I was always going to bring my, as LeBron said, bring my talents back to the Observer. And so all through school, I went to San Jose State, and I got accepted to Howard. I was going to go to Howard, and that's a different story for a different show why I didn't get to go to Howard. But I ended up going to San Jose State and learned all the things I could. Hadn't worked at the Portland Oregonian, and even then they were saying you're going to take your this work back to your family business. And so came back in 1997 and worked alongside my parents, and officially ascended to publisher in 2015.
Awesome. What a story. What, and I love that you really were able to be focused on your purpose through schooling and other opportunities and knowing that you'd be able to take it back home. Lafayette, are you officially with us?
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Yay. No, no worries. We know the technology can be funny. I was having issues earlier. So I'll sort of combine the past two questions for you briefly, which is, some of your early memories with the Informer, and what was that shift for you, where you said, okay, I love the paper. Let me now think about publishing something myself and bringing the bridge to us a decade ago.
Certainly. So, I was just like I think Larry was explaining, I could hear a bit of what he was saying about, being born into the paper, initially starting out as perhaps like a pest around the office, but then, gaining interest through basically osmosis, just observing the photographers, seeing the cool pictures. Back in the day, we used to get like these packages from like when the book would come out or like a movie would come out. So we get like a poster or like an action figure or, some type of cool swag or whatever from different, activations that were happening around the country. So I was like, wow, this is cool. Like we got access, we get free stuff. Like it's really cool. And eventually, I started to delve into photography just on a personal, in my personal time, and learn a lot about photography through the folks at the paper. And then that sort of grew into, me like freelancing as a photographer and then videographer and then throwing events and just like, creating my own world with the skills that I was learning at the paper, and eventually ended up collaborating with the paper, and now we've been doing the bridge for about 10 years. I think, what was the second question you asked? Or did I?
That was it.
Okay, okay.
How did that shift happen? So, um, I love that you said it was almost through osmosis. It was so much a part of you. And again, I've been able to see a little bit of the journey for you, and you've always, again, been able to bring some of your talents to us in such an inspiring way and to help us elevate. Which I guess leads to my next question is, um, how do you feel these the publications have grown under your contributions in leadership? And why don't we start with you, Lafayette, since you wear 40 different hats
Mm.
at the bridge and then about 35 at the Informer. So tell us about that for you.
Well, I think it's a team effort. I mean, it is a team effort, so I can't take really any particular credit, but as we've seen the digital transformation happen over the past, 15 to 20 years, and that's been the story of my life. So, when I was in junior high school, nobody had a cell phone, and now everybody uses a cell phone for everything. So, and that has sparked, all sorts of new types of content that we take for granted. So video, photography, social media, and then just like the speed of content and the sort of data analytic aspect of being able to make data driven decisions. So, my major was marketing at Howard University. I became a graphic designer for a company in Alexandria for about 5 years after that, and learned a lot about the corporate side of marketing and content creation. So I hope I've been able to, add some of that skill into the business. The bridge I think of as like a prototyping space for ideas that the Informer might be interested in, or ideas that I have that might need some proof of concept before I'm able to introduce them to the Informer. So we've definitely taken a lead on our video production and I guess like our influencer strategy and things that have sort of become more important and relevant, and honestly were created within the past 15 to 20 years. So I would say that I'm proud of you know you know creating energy around those ideas and assisting wherever I can to try to make those ideas happen in all of our businesses.
Great, great. And Larry, how about you?
Well, I mean, I think everything that Lafayette said. I mean, if you're around the publishing and news industry in the last 20, 25 years, the digital transformation is critical for any of us to be surviving. So there's that. I think the uniqueness about this milestone that you all are under, and with the 60 years, to me, like this 50, 60 years begins to illustrate a level of consistency and and generational consistency that begins to kind of put your organization into a different space. I mean, an individual. I mean, my dad was a publisher for 52 years, right? So that could be under one leadership. A 40 or 50 years. One person can, if they're given the gift of long life, can lead an organization for a long period of time. But once you start getting into 60, 65, 70 years, it is obviously another generation that's coming in. And I think that one of the things that I'm probably most proud of is being able to transition us without necessarily missing much, and growing things, right? So being able to grow revenue, being able to grow our audience, being able to grow our staff. It's never going to be what it was. I mean, again, like I said, at one point in the 80s, I think the Observer I think we had 6 publications throughout the West. Those days are gone, because it's just not realistic to have that sort of you know of a business. That business model has changed for newsrooms. But I take great pride in knowing that we're continuing to develop great products using technology, using all the different means in which people are consuming news and information. You guys are doing an amazing job like this with streaming and the like. And so, I'm proud of those type things. I think also the ongoing challenge will be economic stability. How can you position the organization and newsroom to be really healthy in a very challenging time? And so while that fight is constant, I'm optimistic that we will be able to kind of get to that moment.
Yeah, wonderful. And congratulations on all things. I was just thinking about, was that your 2023 NNPA sweep where I don't think you got rest that evening, accepting award after award. So as you talked about, it shows the sort of legacy of hard work, but truly your contributions must be celebrated, Larry. Miss Denise, how about you? There's been a lot that we've seen you really innovate here at the Washington Informer. What are some of the things you're proudest of under?
Well, I'm going to go back, because I just think of funny stories. When I started working with my dad in whatever year that was, and I was trying to build a staff, right? Because I realized, we can't, I learned, my father he was not a journalist, right? He had his degree in business from Prairie View A&M. And, why he started the paper, there's a lot of stuff happening here politically. And he, wanted to make sure that, Black folks in DC had a voice, because this was before home rule, and the whole home rule struggle, the violence between, DC residents and the police. And so, like all other Black papers, Black publishers especially, there was a mission, that he wanted to pursue. When I came, I'm like, well, we need some writers. We need some more writers, and I was trying to figure out how I would pay these people. And my dad used to say, you don't pay writers. The writers come a dime a dozen. You don't need to pay them. And I'm like, wait a minute. You just spent all this money for me to go to journalism school. And now you don't think I'm supposed to be paid? So, which he really didn't. But, at any rate, like that Bill Cosby kind of thing, I'm paying your room and board and feeding you. No, you don't need to get paid. But at any rate, we got past that. We really did. And we, started bringing on folks who had skills beyond what, the paper had in the past. I think about my father and I think about Larry's dad. I really wish we could sit down and have conversations with them right now, because they were very innovative in the ways that they were able to sustain the publications during the era that they published. My dad didn't publish as long as Larry's dad did. Maybe that's why they were close, because he learned from him, but also, they were the new guys on the block, the new kids on the block when they got into this business, because there were papers that were much older than our respective papers. And so, you don't always get, a gracious welcome or hospitality from the older generation. So they had to sort of figure their own way how to make this work. And I forgot that Larry, and they had 6 publications. That's amazing. And in these days, you don't need 6 with with digital. So I can understand why he's saying that those days are over. So as we've kind of gone through this transition, it's one, staying true to who we are as a publication that serves the Black community, although not all of our readers are Black, but this is our focus and this is who we cover. And being able to now, take all the tools that are available to us to monetize those tools and still find a way to sustain ourselves. Again, I have to, like you did, Micha, give a shout out to Larry, because a couple of years ago, the Sacramento Observer, and for those that don't know, is located in Sacramento, California, was named the top Black newspaper in the country, and rightfully so. He's done a great job there. And I think we're all aspiring to get that title. but it's because of, like he said, the branding that he's done for the publication, which we've tried to do as well for the Informer, the reach, the content, and the ways in which people can access our content. And so, there's no one specific thing I can point to. It's just ever evolving and making sure that we have the people that work with us who see the vision and bring with them the skills that we need to do the work that we aspire to do every single day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, super congratulations and kudos to you on all of that. I can't to have been a fly on the wall during in that conversation with your dad explaining why writers need money.
And photographers,
Yeah,
Larry, back in the day, you know how that is. Like, you get all these press releases and these photos. I mean, the packages were very full of things that he could repurpose. And paying people is, it's something that we know we need to do, and we're have for a long time not been competitive. I think we are now
yeah,
to a certain extent. And it just amazes me how so many journalists who've lost their jobs around this country, why they're not knocking on our doors. I
yeah.
really cannot figure that one out. Maybe they are in your case, Larry, but they're not on ours. And to me, I don't know if there's just some, maybe they just assume that we can't afford them. I don't know. How's that working for you? Are they?
Well, I mean, I think I think there's some, particularly in this post George Floyd era, I think there's definitely some attraction to working for a news organization that is unapologetically addressing the conditions of African Americans. And so, we've had definitely, I think, more interest from particularly a younger generation, younger audience of reporters and photographers and content creators and that sort of thing. But I do think that there is also that there is still kind of a stigma. I don't want to say stigma, or maybe an uninformed community about kind of what we do and how they can have a life here. I mean, there was a time when segregation prevented any black reporters from working in any mainstream newsrooms, right? And so their only place was to learn their craft, that they were passionate about what we do, is in the black press. And I think that that was the case, particularly around the civil rights era. And that's probably why your dad and my dad didn't really feel the need to have to pay reporters and photographers, because it was like you're getting the privilege of doing this work for our community. And so I could see that, oh, you get to do this, you get to go to the Capitol and meet with the governor and do a story on the governor or whatever it might be. But I think now, because some aspiring journalists, African American journalists, get the opportunities to work in mainstream newsrooms, that tends to be more attractive to them
Yeah.
early in their careers. But you also sometimes get those, like I said, that recognize early that that fight is really challenging, and that being in a newsroom that is concerned about them and their community, and the work that they get to do is impacting the people that they care about, can be very attractive too.
Certainly, certainly. Looks like we lost Miss Denise for a second, but I know she'll be back. So I'll uh, start with you on this question, Larry, because you've already hit this milestone, which is the 60th anniversary of the Informer. We're celebrating now. You all are now celebrating 62 years. And that is considered a diamond anniversary, which, as a word gal, means so much to me, at least. But what does achieving 60 years mean to you? And what are some of the things that you've had to overcome leading to 62 years?
Sure,
You.
sure. Well, I mean, I spoke a little bit earlier. I mean, again,
Yeah.
I think that generational consistency, again, 60, is greater than one person, right? It becomes, something. And Denise really, particularly having ascended so early at the Informer, and with Lafayette there, you're looking at three generations, right, of folks and Lafayette is a veteran now. He's not a newbie. He's a veteran. So looking at the Informer at 60 years with three generations of veteran leadership within the organization is a tremendous milestone, a tremendous achievement. And you guys, I'm just so proud to call you guys part of our Black Press family and to be a part of the Black Press family with you all. But I think that is significant. It begins to also institutionalize the brand. If you've been a good brand, right? If you've been a bad brand, it's something that you have to overcome. But if you've been a good brand, like you guys have been, like we feel like the Observer has been, it begins to institutionalize the work that you're doing, and people tend to not take you for granted as much. Now, doesn't mean they don't take us for granted. Um, as they do, or forget about us at times, or that we have to put our guards down and stop fighting for, the concerns or the needs of our communities. But it does mean that you get to the front of the line a little bit more frequently in the minds of those that are not necessarily thinking about our communities as much. And so that's really important that once you start getting to 60 and 70. I mean, we, again, 62. I do say we celebrate every year, but looking at those milestones of a 65 and a 70 and a 75, like that's part of what gets me up every day. Is like, wow, man, could you imagine having, you know, a business that has been serving a community kind of consistently for 60, 70, 80 years? I mean, that's quite an achievement. So
Absolutely. Well, again, I mean, can't say it enough. Congratulations and ever, ever inspired. Um, and Lafayette, I know that for you, you've seen 60 years from a different angle because you've not been around for all of that. But for you, what does achieve, knowing the Informer, um, achieving 60 years, what does that mean to you? And how do you really sort of hope to build on that legacy? What is the next 60 years of the Informer look like for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, 60 years is almost an unbelievable accomplishment. Most businesses do not make it that far, no matter what race, gender, ethnicity, whatever. No matter what the demographics are, most businesses don't make it 60 years. So to accomplish, to achieve 60 years of business is a feat in itself. I'm very happy to be a part of it. It's created such things as community trust and access. We are an authority when it comes to the Black voice and reaching, the entire audience of the DMV, not just African Americans. And so, 60 years, like if it's almost like, you look at, if you're looking for advice, right? Or if you're looking for, wise, sort of, yeah, advice, you're going to go to an older person who's had more experience. So for us having the 60 years of experience in this business, there are so many gems that we've been able to collect over time. So it's been a treat, to be able to be exposed to that. The next 60 years, I think, it's TBD. I think this is a business, news basically changes every day, and we're reacting to what's happening every day. So we're going to continue to do our best to storytell and represent for the communities that we work with. We're also going to continue to embrace technology and see if discover the best ways to reach our audiences. I think that one sort of side thing that my personal opinion is that um, you know before the internet, right? Like you sort of owned your audience. You had a direct connection with your audience. You had a very community oriented business. Where now, because of social media and the digital sort of third person in the room, there's a little bit of a gray area when it comes to how connected or how much you own your audience. So I hope that going forward we figure out ways to bring our audience back over to into the Informer website or back into our subscription model. And as we see with what's happening in our society today, the promise of uh, sustainable or accountable job market is not, what it once was. So we must, get back to a point where we are, inter community, uh, where everybody's working together to create a very strong community and not relying on the platforms that have been put in front of us. So I hope that for the next 60 years, we continue to embrace our community and bring our community into our business more and more.
I love that. And oh, good, she's back. I was just gonna say, and I know this. You guys been waiting to hear from Miss Denise on this answer, but she'll talk about it for the next few weeks. But please, Miss Denise, can you share a little bit about what 60 years means to you, and what your hope is for the next 60 years of the organization?
Well, in one, I guess in human years, it's pretty significant. And I didn't think about it until Lafayette just said it, because I was thinking in business years it's
Mm,
significant, but I didn't really think about how significant that might be, because
mm,
we do have so many institutions in this country and all over that, even in the Black press, that are twice as old as we are. But it is significant, because there were so many times when we didn't think we were going to make it to the next year, and we did. And so, for me now, it's kind of really wanting to have, or to hear the answers that Lafayette and his generation, and some of the folks in the generation of interns and writers that you brought on board, to hear what their vision is, because that's what's going to direct us. That's one of the reasons why the bridge was started, because people claim that young folks don't read.
mm.
And not only that they don't read, but they don't read newspapers. So it was our test of that ideology, to determine if that's the case. And what we found, which has always been the case, folks like seeing themselves in print. They like it online, but to know that there's a print, that, there's something that they can pick up and show and share and what have you, that doesn't disappear in 30 days or whatever the case may be. There's still some value in what we do. But the next 60 years, I don't know. I'm going to have to rely on, the generation behind us and the generations behind them to determine where we go from here. If people ask me, do we still print a newspaper? And I tell them, yes, we will continue to print the Washington Informer until we can't. And that decision may not be ours. It may be something that's happening environmentally or whatever the case may be. But, people still like picking up and reading our publications. So, um, you know, Larry will understand this. I just want to get to March the 28th. I just want to get to 2026. Every day is an achievement for us, because it's an achievement for Black America. Everything that we do, we want to we're marching forward, and we want to document every step of the way. And we just hope to be here with folks as we continue, I say, to climb that mountain.
Yes. Well, we are certainly climbing that mountain with you and really inspired by your leadership. And that leads me to my final question, which is, we can't ignore where we are in this political climate. And the Black press, as you have been articulating to us in our meetings, has played a critical role historically in informing people what's happening, and really being the truth tellers. But we know today it's it's playing a really crucial role, particularly when you have an administration who's trying to control the press. And so I want to know, um, what is the importance of the Informer, the Bridge, the Sacramento Observer in your respective communities, but also the importance of the Black press in general and where we are today. And Larry, we'll start with you.
Wow, that's a lot. I think
It's a heavy one.
that's all right though, because it's the work that we do, right? I was telling someone jokingly, this is a profession we've chosen, right? And it is, like Lafayette said, it changes every day, and that is something that I think that we are driven to be a part of in a way that is reflective of the needs of our communities. Um, you know, Denise and I, again, and Lafayette as well too, but we've spent so many years in this work, and the work is journalism. It's small business, but then it's also advocacy, right? And it's all of those hats. And so I think as Black press, members of the Black press, we are called to speak truth to power. We're called to advocate on behalf of our communities, in a way that is truthfully and healthy for our communities. And so the work doesn't stop. It doesn't really matter who or what an administration is doing. We're going to have to continue to fight that fight. I mean, even under the best of presidential or gubernatorial or mayoral leadership, there's always disparities and challenges that are impacting our communities, and we have to put our armor on and fight on behalf of our communities. Sometimes the fight looks like one thing, and sometimes it looks like something else. And so I know, my fellow Black press publishers, are very concerned about the current administration. I am as well too. I tell my team, I've been telling my team this, since last year. We don't know uh, what our future holds, but I will say this much: you've got a leader. You guys have it in DC at the Informer. You got a leader who's committed to making this work, and to making sure, like Denise says, we get to 2026 and we get to 2027, and we do it in a way that does not sacrifice the needs of our communities or our own staffs as well too, making sure that they're healthy and encouraged and supported to do the work that is that they're being called to do. So
Thank you. Lafayette, how about you? What's the role of the bridge and the Black press at this time?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a role that it's always played is just, being a platform and a voice for, people who aren't in the mainstream. The bridge, our goal is to highlight young influencers, change makers, and community members, entrepreneurs in DC, who typically don't get the recognition that we believe they should. And so whether as was stated, like no matter who the president is or what the sort of political situation is, that always remains our goal, and that community seems to always be the underdog. So we'll continue to do that. And honestly, the less that the mainstream enjoys, or the less that the mainstream pays attention, the more opportunities there are for us, because what I often see happening is mainstream businesses sort of piggybacking on the ideas that, African Americans or minority communities come up with. So if they want to go one way and we want to go another way, that's fine. It just creates less of a I guess, competition for us. So I really don't see major issues. Obviously, there are funding issues, but that's why, we need to tap back into our community a bit more and make sure that we double down on their support.
Love that. Love that. Lafayette said, let them go left. We're going to go right. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. Miss Denise, how about you?
Well, I can just say ditto, ditto,
Yeah.
because I really want to. But Misha, as you know, and we talked about this today, one of the things that we wanted to do here in DC, because it's not only Black press, it's just Blacks in the media. And we play a vital role, and people, need to understand, no matter who we work for, we play a vital role in our communities. And at this point in time, I think everybody is suffering from, I don't know if it's news fatigue or what's going on, but our journalists are in a state at the moment. We're not, I don't think, in the Black press, but others are, which is one reason why we decided to celebrate the 198th anniversary, the 198th anniversary of the Black press on March the 16th with um, a, a, a service that Metropolitan AME Church here in Washington, D.C. is going to host for us. It is also the church that many Black journalists are a member of. It's a church where Dorothy Gilliam and others who started the National Association of Black Journalists, they're a member of that church. It's also the church that Frederick Douglass, um, where he worshiped, and where his funeral service was held. And he too was the publisher of a newspaper, the North Star. So, we have come through the worst of times, and these are not any worse than the times that we've come through. And we just have to keep reminding ourselves of that. And no matter who's in the White House or who the executive leadership is, or as Larry was talking about, the political leadership, we have a job to do. And so, I mean, if it gets to the point where we're publishing on Xerox paper or whatever we're doing, as Lafayette said, we have to look at how we strengthen our media outlets, and not depend upon the social platforms that, everybody's using, but we can build our audiences, continue to build our audiences. I feel pretty good right now. And I feel like, the doors of opportunity are still open for us. And we just have to be as creative as we've always been, to keep those doors open. So I'm optimistic, um, and I'm going to stay that way.
Yeah.
Especially especially after I get a good prayer from Reverend Lamar, Pastor Lamar of Metropolitan AME. I'm sure he's going to put us on our feet. This is the church where the Proud Boys came and burned down their Black Lives Matter sign, and the church sued the Proud Boys and now own their what do you call it? Their
Copyright, the logo,
copyright to their logo, not the copyright, but whatever it is, to their logo.
trademark.
Trademark. They own the Proud Boys trademark. In order to use that trademark, they have to use it in order to maintain it. So you will be seeing me wearing my Proud Boys Black Lives Matter T-shirt. I ordered it the other day, and it supports the church. And we're going to get a good word on March the 16th. And we hope that, because it's always been the partnership between the Black church and the Black press. And the Black church is having some issues right now, as we all know as well. But we all need, is that belief in God, that faith that he's going to see us through, or she's going to see us through. And so, I don't have, I have no fears. I have none.
Well, we will be passing the plate now after Pastor Barnes just gave us that word. No, I'm so inspired, Miss Denise. Thank you. There's so much to celebrate and really to be excited about as we move forward. And so we hope that you all can join us on March 16th and, of course, on March 28th at our celebration at the Martin Luther King Library as well. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you all would like to add so that the folks out there watching can know? Either about your organization, some teases, anything. Larry,
I mean, well, I was just, Denise knows we could talk this life's work like for hours. So I, I mean, I literally just called Denise just the other day. We just started talking about some stuff, and I just, it's encouraging to be around like-minded people, no matter where they are. In their journey. I look up to Denise tremendously, with the work that she's been doing, the staff that she has. I love the fact that, it seems like so much of her staff is of a generation of, millennials and Gen Zers, and that's really fun and refreshing and encouraging as well too from my perspective. So, don't get me talking. This is my life's work. This is my passion. So I could talk Black press all day and all night, but we won't do that.
well,
But
this
love you
might have to
guys.
be,
Very. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say there might have to be a part two though, Larry, because it's been a great conversation.
But
Yeah.
congratulations to the Informer for 60 years of tremendous service to the DC community. You guys keep up the great work, and love watching 3,000 miles away the work that you guys are doing. And I'll be in DC for Black Press Week, but I won't unfortunately be able to make it to the anniversary.
Well, you celebrate with us always, so thank you, Larry.
Well,
Thank,
his celebration was enough to last us all for a couple of years because he
right?
rolled out the red carpet for the folks. They came from near and far to to celebrate the Sacramento Observer's anniversary. And it was a wonderful, wonderful affair and a lot of work Larry put into that. But it was a great event.
And I'm eternally thankful for Denise coming all the way out to Sacramento to join us for that anniversary.
And that's
So
so
I'll
too. Yeah.
never forget that.
Nope.
And
Yeah,
I would just say, visit wibridgedc.com, visit washingtoninformer.com, sign up for our email blast, and there'll be some perks coming down the line. So just stay in tune.
And
thank you.
thank you, Misha, for, I mean, this is not your first rodeo. You spent time at the Afro, so, and we can't, what, 130, I forget how many years, but 100 and some odd years. So, we appreciate your commitment to what we do.
Of course, I love it, and I love learning under you and all of the wonderful Black press every single day. I have to say I was with my dad last week in Colombia, and I mean I was just working and hours, and he goes, I know you work hard, but your job is cool because you learn something every day. And I said every second. But it really is, it's true because it's never a dull moment. So I'm so thankful, and it's such important work. I'm sad we have to go, guys. But for the viewers out there, I sent them an email saying 15 minutes, and we've been on an hour. So that just shows you really how passionate they are about this work. And I'm so thankful for you all's time. And Larry, we're looking forward to hugging you in a few weeks when you're here for Black Press Week. And to all of you, remember to go to WashingtonInformer.com for all things news and happenings, and to Win60Legacy.com for the Washington Informer 60th anniversary celebration. And we'll be posting a lot in the coming days and weeks about the March 16th event as well. And you don't want to miss some more inspiring words to get us going as we prepare for the path forward. Thank you all very much. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, You'll see Miss Denise tomorrow talking to some really cool folks on Win TV. So be sure to tune in again at 12 o'clock. Thanks to Shaman. They've become a person. To Chevry and Jaman for the work that you're doing in the back and making sure that we get this wonderful news out to the people. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
All right, thank you.